Hi everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Cheltenham podcast. It's our Cheltenham special. We did this last year. It went very well. We had some really good results on the day. This is our anti-post one. We've got a handicap one to follow up next week, but this is looking at all the Grade 1 races. So 3 each day plus 4 on the Tuesday, of course, with the Mayor's Hurdle thrown in. And we'll put up any other bets. We'll have best bets, best lays for each day as well, because we're within 2 weeks of the Cheltenham Festival. And it's about the time where every jumps racing fan goes crazy. We've got Adele Mulrennan, Charlie Poste, Donn McClean, Micheál, Deasy, Matt Toombs with us. Adele, how's things?
All good, thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Cheltenham. It seems like it's flown by this winter. But yeah, everyone's getting geared up now, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm glad it's flown by because January is utter dross, frankly. Charlie, you're good. You like January?
Oh, good. I don't mind January, I don't think. You know, as in, I suppose I've been away for a good bit of February, Tom, so I'm rev for Cheltenham now. I'm back in.
Yeah, that's why you look so tan, as we can see. Toomsy, how are you? Welcome along, our Cheltenham expert. Now, just to set this up, you've got some trends for pretty much all of the races, which I know you update year on year, but they're invaluable tools to hopefully finding winners, hopefully finding value. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them are specifically designed to look at anti-post value, because that's slightly different than what we're looking at now to what we'll be wanting to bet on the day.
Micheál Deasy's with us. He's one of our own. Where's your scarf?
Got my scarf here. As you said there, the heating goes off in Matchbook Towers at 5:30 these days, so I've got the scarf, got the hat as well. Or brand ambassador Ali Murphy for that there, no, much appreciated.
There will be a pod up tomorrow with Ollie Murphy's Cheltenham horses. You've got a couple for the handicaps, 3 horses for Grade 1s, including 2 in the Supreme. A few years ago, we had the 2nd and the 3rd in the Supreme. I know Deasy and I fancy one of those each. Whether or not they'll beat Facile Vega, we'll see. Don, I was going to say our resident Irish expert, but you're just an all-round expert. All good?
Yeah, it's hard to know if you go with the Irish for Cheltenham. It's not as easy as it used to be. You find the best of the Irish, and yeah, that'll win. No, not so easy anymore. But yeah, all set. Yeah, it's mad. It's less than 2 weeks away now. Crazy.
I think it was about 2017 the last time you could get any value on Willie Mullins' horses anti-post. Probably about then anyway, but that's gone. Right. No further ado, let's get stuck in. So a few things to remind you of, first of all. A very popular offer, our sign-up offer. That's the double the odds on the podcast best bet. DC nailed one at a fair price about 3 weeks ago. So you get double the odds on our podcast best bets. That's going to be available for all of our daily ones that we put up here, and also for the Cheltenham in its entirety one. So we'll do ones for each day, and then we'll do one at the very back end for the whole of Cheltenham. You've got to enter the bonus code podcast when signing up. Extra winnings up to £50 in cash. Double the odds on podcast best bets. Use the bonus code podcast when signing up. It is for new customers only. Terms and conditions apply. 18+. BeGambleAware. As we said on Twitter, it was very Pat Sharp and Funhouse of our producer Dan Hussey, but there are prizes to be won. And it probably is a really wacky show. You can like and comment, post-recording or live, with anything you like to win £25 in free bets. It's for new or existing customers. Obviously, the more comments you put up, the more free bets you get. We'll select lots throughout the show. And as I say, you can do it post-recording as well. You get £25 free bets for new and existing customers. The funniest live chat comment, Peter, I'm looking at you, also gets a £50 free bet. So double just the normal free bet. Don't forget to check out the Cheltenham trends that Matt's been putting up. There's been videos up there with Dan and DC, and Dom's in for one as well. And all the articles are live. And a tip of the hat to Adele, who was 4 from 4 last year on Tuesday when I think that was the last time Constitution Hill was odds against Adele. You know, Constitution Hill, Edwardstone, Honeysuckle, and Marie's Rock. So well done to you.
No pressure then.
Yeah. Don't mess it up this time. Tuesday. Let's go. Okay, let's introduce before I do any odds or anything like that. Give us an example of one of the trends, Matt, that we're going to be looking at. So the first race, the first Grade 1, the Supreme Novices Hurdle. What should we be looking for?
So the trend is that winners of the Brave Inca Novice Hurdle, now over 2 miles at the Dublin Racing Festival, 6 from 9 in the Supreme this century, 153% profit. And that's often the strongest novice hurdle run anywhere before the festival. That predates the current strength of the Irish trained horses. I think the reasons are that The Irish system funnels the best horses into a valuable Grade 1 at the right time, early February. The Irish trainers are long been more inclined to take each other on in a race like this rather than look to win a softer race. That combination provides novices with meaningful experience, such a big plus in the Supreme. And given how much stronger the Irish stables are at the moment, there's every reason to believe that trend can build, and it's a positive for Ilete Tante.
Okay, so but don't you have to trust the form of the race itself then? You have to trust that Ilete Tante was the best horse in the race, right? And I guess you do that, or do you just want to always back the winner year on year for the Supreme?
Oh no, not at all. I wouldn't be following it in blind, but I do trust the form. Facile Vega and High Definition probably went a bit quicker than ideal, but Ilete Tante was never more than about 7 lengths behind. It's ludicrous to suggest Facile Vega's falling in a hole can be explained simply by that early gallop. So yes, they probably went a little bit too quickly. If it had been eaten 2-3 lengths, it might have been an excuse. My view is that the ground is a big problem for him. He needs lots of cut, so Deasy's going to come on to. And so anti-post, I couldn't have him, because if there's a sound surface, it'll probably be a layer for a place on the day for me.
Okay. Facile Vega, you can see 4.2, Marine Nationale 5.5, Ilete Tante 6.8, High Definition 14.0, Tamuras and Diverge 15.5. There's Chasing Fire 22.0, the first of the Ollie Murphy runners. I probably will give him a go on the day, to be honest, in the same colours as Thomas Darby, who finished second a few years ago. And Strong Leader is a little bit bigger than that, I believe. I know that Deasy's going to come on to that horse. I want to come to Adele next, just to sort of flesh out the case for Ilete Tante, if I can.
Well, I mean, I'm not really buying into the fact that Facile Vega went off. He did go quick. High Definition was kind of pressing him the whole time. But I was thinking, if you can't cope with that pace, you're certainly not going to cope with it at Cheltenham in a race like the Supreme. So I kind of like, I'm not buying into it, to be honest with you, that much. His times, even when he's won for Facile Vega, have been quite slow. So I think either way, I think he'd still struggle with the pace there. So I think the actual right horse won. This horse has taken his time to mature. He's a horse that he was keen himself throughout the race. He wears a hood. But I think this horse is really just starting to learn to race properly now. And I actually think he was better with the stronger pace being set that day. So I still think the right horse won that day. I think the pace at Cheltenham will really suit him. I think he jumped better, kind of going on that forward foot pace. And I'm not buying into Facile Vega. He looked a bit over the top to me for Facile Vega that day. He felt like he looked like he was set alight and then just completely bombed out, didn't find anything. But considering High Definition fell halfway through the race, he went to put the handbrake on Paul Townend, and he kind of then had the race in his hands, but he still couldn't finish it off. So I can't have Facile Vega for me. I think Ilete Tante is the one. I think he was the best horse that won that day.
Okay, lots of comments. Nobody likes Facile Vega. There's a hole in Facile Vega. Lay Facile Vega all day. Ilete Tante for Peter's punts. Facile Vega too buzzy. Do the panel agree? High knee action, maybe a place lay. I mean, ultimately, he's won on good to yielding. For all he's got a high knee action, we know that day one is never very quick ground. And Deasy, you just put a line through last time, right? He wasn't even ridden when he was beat, and he finished lame.
Yeah. I could make a case for a few horses in this. I just said I'd go with Facile Vega for numerous reasons. And the first one is that the ground has to be one of the most important things that you look at when you're looking at a race like this. And for a long time, it looked like there's been no rain in England for the last 5 months nearly, but the weather is turning now. That it seems to be that there's a bad forecast coming in. And if the ground is heavy, and I think he needs it heavy, because remember last year he went through almost unraceable ground to win the bumper very easily. If it comes up heavy, I think he has to be a bet, especially at the price he is now. If you watched the race last day, like, he went off too fast, everyone knows that, and Paul Townend didn't give him the best ride. But as soon as Ilete Tante was gone past him, he stopped riding him. He just let him go. He didn't ride him out. Ilete Tante won because in the pocket, ran up the arse of, I think it was Irish Point that had to come out. In the pocket needs further, and I think it was Dark Ray and there's the other horse, so he's nowhere near the standard. So he won by a good distance, but I don't think he actually bait much once Facile Vega was out of the race. If he turns up and it's heavy ground, like as well as that, if he had no chance and if he was gone, he'd be three times the price he is now. They're very good to lay the horses in Willie Mullins' yard when they know they're wrong. He hasn't drifted that much. He's actually come back in a small bit since that Dublin Racing Festival. So I wouldn't say no, but if the weather goes bad and the ground is going to be heavy, they'll have to put a bit of water on it already. It's well worth reading Matt's article on the watering as he put up recently. But if it's heavy, I would give him a great chance of bouncing back. And
Matt, surely there's more chance of my 9-day-old going through the night tonight than there is of it being heavy ground on day one of the Cheltenham Festival. And also, can you respond to Tom Leach's comment, Matt?
Well, both of them. You've got to remember that for the last 5 years, we've started on either soft 3 times and heavy once. The high water table now means if that rain and snow does come in, it could easily be really testing.
The last time, sorry, Matt. The last time there was a weather system like this, the Beast from the East, it was called, right? It was 2018, and that was the year that Somerville Boy won the Supreme in bottomless ground. It was very heavy that year. We're getting the same kind of weather this year. There was snow and sleet and everything for the weeks before it. So Irish people know loads about the weather. We have loads of weather. You know, we've been looking up at the sky now a lot recently. So
It's Micheál fish. Go on.
Yeah, if the weather turns, it throws everything. All farm study goes into the bin. You have to start looking at heavy ground horses, and he is a heavy ground horse, and he would have been, if he'd won the last day, he'd probably be 1-3. You know, if with heavy ground, I still think at the price he is, if the ground is heavy, he's definitely a bet.
Matt, very quickly then, how many Supreme winners lost last time out? Do you have that to hand?
3 this century, the old Rogue LeBake, and then both Menorah and Arkle got stuck in the mud the previous time.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Yeah, I'm against Facile Vega, and I'm kind of in a minority on this side of the Irish Sea, but it seems like I'm in a majority here. I don't think they pushed him out enough after his defeat at Leopardstown. I think that there wasn't, like, watching the race live and directly afterwards, he thought he went too fast. But as Matt said, Itinerary wasn't too far behind him, and it was nearly reassuring to find out that there was a problem afterwards, that he was lame afterwards. So I think it's not the ideal preparation. I thought they should have gone a bigger price about him after that defeat, because it is hard. And then suddenly, when like going into the race, as Micheál was saying there, like, he was flawless. His breeding, he's obviously Cavega's son. He was unbeaten under all codes. So going into the race, he was a 49 shot, and he was a 49 shot based on what he'd done before, plus his reputation, plus his breeding. Then he's beaten, and then suddenly you see the flaws. But I'm kind of surprised that he's still favoured. I think he might not be favoured on the day. I take the lad's point on Itinerary for sure, and he's a second season novice as well. He was keen and free last year. He made his debut, I think, at the Dublin Racing Festival last season for Willie Mullins. But I like Marine Nationale. I think he's a little bit of a forgotten horse among people, if not quite by the market. And I'm sure Matt has a stat about horses who haven't run this in the calendar year winning a Supreme. I'm sure they're in a minority, but it was always the plan to miss it. He was busy all the way through the summer. I thought his run in the Royal Bond was a very good run. Things didn't go right for him. He got shuffled back at a crucial point in the race, and he made his ground very easily back up, and he battled on well to beat Irish Point, and that was after missing the last. And that race has been working out pretty well. Cham Kiley, who was 4th, won the Laurels Hotel race next time. Astro Diamond, who was 3rd, she won the Solarina Hurdle Grade 3 race, I think it is. So he's been left off since then to bring him there fresh. His jumping is good. Michael O'Sullivan, while he can't claim his £5 in a Grade 1 race, he's a very, very good rider, and he does have a Cheltenham winner on the board. For all that, he lacks the depth of experience of the Cheltenham Festival. I just think he's just a very, very cool rider, and I'm sure that Marine Nationale won't lack from the saddle. And Barry Connell has had his horses in tremendous form all season. So yeah, and he's always said that he holds this horse in, like, I think he said that he's the best horse he's ever had, as in ever owned. So that's a very high commendation. No, I think Marine Nationale has lots in his favour.
Matt, flesh out the any concern potentially for not having run for a while or lack of experience.
Wouldn't be too worried about that. Alcy, I don't think he'll run since Christmas. Captain Seaby had been off since the autumn. So it's been deliberate. That's the point. I think Barry Connell said he won the Royal Bond despite the ground, wanted to keep him away from the winter ground, and he goes well fresh. So if the ground is decent on the day, I think he's got a good solid chance. Yeah.
Tom Leach says Marine Nationale is my pick. Hopefully a bigger price on the day once the Mullins fanboys start punting. And Ranjiv says Tamuras if soft ? Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keen on Tamuras. I think this is a race that has quite an open look to it. I think quite a lot of horses bring in a sort of similar level of form to the table, and I just think Tamuras is a bit of a forgotten horse. Paul Nicholls has taken this race out before with Alpha Off and Nolan, horses that have ultimately ended up staying further, and I think the fact that he will go a bit further. Tamuras has got to be in his favour, and I think he's a strong enough traveller that he'll be able to lay up early. Just going back to what someone said about Facile Vega with the being buzzy, and I wouldn't worry too much about that. He's by walk in the park, and most of his offspring tend to be a bit hot, so that wouldn't be a negative for me. But I think like with Marine Nationale, Elete Tom, Facile Vega to a degree, they do sort of bring a similar level, and I think Tamuras fits into that slot as well. He's very progressive. Paul's been very bullish about him. He's been off since the Tolworth. Obviously, Constitution Hill did the double of that last year, and yeah, I think he's overpriced. I really do think he's overpriced at 11.0.
Okay, and as I said, I think Ollie Murphy's supposed first string genuinely, not just because he's a Matchbook ambassador, is a little overpriced. And I said the same about Thomas Darby a few years ago when he finished second. And I know that you, Deasy, will probably have a go at Strong Leader. Why?
I've had a go at Strong Leader already. I just really like. I mean, we actually saw him in the yard as one of the first horses we saw over there, and they're all like Adrian Hesketh was on him. He said this is a proper horse. He was unlucky to be beaten by Encanto Bruno at Cheltenham in a season debut in a bumper, but I liked like he seems to have press button speed. Press the button, he's gone. He can go up through the gears. He's always raced left-handed this year. Chasing Fire has always gone right-handed. I don't know, is that something to do with him? But I just prefer Strong Leader of the two of them, and not because Ollie is our ambassador. I will genuinely be having an each way betting them or win place betting them and backing them for 4 places and 5 places if I can today, because I can see him. I can see him definitely outrunning his odds.
All right, we're done. That's the Supreme, done and dusted. The Arkle we move on to. So, Charlie, I'm going to come to you first of all here, and I'll have a ping at the prices as well. So, 2.78 Jumbon, El Fabiolo 2.82. That's interesting because not everywhere will you have Jumbon as favourite. With Team Matchbook, 2.78 Jumbon, El Fabiolo 2.82, Dice Heart Dynamo 6.4, Saint Roi is 12.0. Tom Leach, I've seen that comment, and I'm not going to read it out, but I will actually going to dig out Ollie Murphy's record at Huntingdon and see what you think of that. Right, Charlie, Dysart Dynamo, go away from the top 2. What are you doing?
Probably madness, because I've massive respect for the top 2, but I don't know. I have a sneaking suspicion about Dysart Dynamo. I think he's an absolute ball of speed. I think the old course at Cheltenham is sort of made for him. I mean, he was still tanking along in the Supreme when he tipped up last year. I think ultimately he just got outstayed at Leopardstown last time out behind El Fabiolo. He led them a long way, jumped soundly, high cruising gear. Look, it's probably going to be difficult to insert the top 2 in the market, but I found it difficult to split them, and so then I was looking at something beyond them. And if Dysart Dynamo gets into a rhythm out on the front end, I think this, it's a sharp 2 mile on this old track, and I think that'll suit him ideally. And like I say, if he'll make them all rock and roll, even if he doesn't hang on, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads them down to the last.
And I know that Matt had positive comments about Dysart Dynamo earlier on in the year, but he's ditched him. Anyway, we'll come to that. DC, you're the leading British hope is John Bon, and he wins. Why?
I think John Bon is an unbelievable jumper and an unbelievable athlete, and he's been brought along nicely this year. I had him picked even before that Fabiolo won at the Dublin Racing Festival. I just think as an athlete, he is top notch. I think he was unlucky last year. And he came up against a freak. I know that El Fabiola ran him very close at the entry, but I just think that he has been the most eye-catching visually of them this year, and I'm out of a pick. I'm happy enough to stick with him.
Ollie Murphy has a 22% strike rate at Huntington. I was all out to say that's better than Paul Nichols's, but he's got a 24% strike rate, so that's a bit annoying. But there you are. It's not bad though, 22%. There you go. It's not. Can
out of 22 winners out of 102 runners.
Yeah. We sound like Ollie Murphy fanboys. I mean, the fact is, he is a Matchbook ambassador, and aside from each other, we do fancy his horses in the Supreme. I wouldn't touch his horse, Thunder Rock, over fences. So there you go. Don't jump well enough. No chance. I don't even know where I'm going next. That happened early. Adele, another John Bond fan.
Yeah, absolutely. What Deasy said. Absolutely love this horse. So, like, he's so athletic. I could watch him all day long, honestly. Even at Warwick, you know, it's such a sharp track, and he just never even, like, I know he had a little bit of a scruffy jump, and Calico managed to kind of like swoop by him, but other than that, he is. I love the way he gallops, and he's so well balanced that even when he changes his leg, he doesn't even alter momentum. He doesn't change his stride pattern or anything. He's just so well balanced, so athletic, so sharp-minded as well, and I really like that about him. I just love him, and I just think he's been, like, from last season when he was kind of like a bit of a kind of hyperactive shell of a horse. What I've seen recently of Nicky Henderson, when he's been showing him off without his rugs on, I'm like, wow, he's actually like filled out into such a big burly horse. Like, the fact that he's even so athletic is fascinating, because he looks like he's put on so much weight, which is really nice to see. I think he's really growing up, and I just think, like, last season he just found everything so easy over hurdles. I think chasing has really kind of like made a man of him, but he still really enjoys it from what I can see. And yeah, I absolutely love him. I really do. I think he's a wonderful horse.
Okay, and now to Team El Fabiolo. Matt, there's nothing between these horses on ratings, is that right?
Well, El Fabiolo is 159 in Ireland, so in that sense, yeah. The Irish horse has got about £3 extra in the handicap chases today. So I'd expect him to be in the early mid-160s when the ratings come through.
Okay, what's the stat? Who do you like?
The stat is about ratings, actually. Since the BHA published them in 2008, the top-rated runners are 9 from 15, 78% profit. So why is such an obvious factor so underbet? Because 2 mile chasing is the most predictable division. The advent of the Turner, the novice chase don't have so much depth now. Smaller fields, less luck in running. So the best 2 milers winning a lot of the time. And El Fabiolo will probably be about £3 or £4 clear top-rated. I think he's got a great chance of enhancing that record. His form in the Irish Arkle is, on bare form, a fair way ahead of anything John Bond's achieved so far. For all that, John Bond does look a cracking prospect.
Does he jump well enough?
El Fabiolo, he's given a belt each time in both of his runs. He's got 13 fences to jump here in 284 yards less. They are less stiff fences. But when he made that bad mistake at the 4th last of the Irish Arkle, he never looked like falling, didn't knock the stuffing out of him at all. He just picked himself up and powered clear of them. I just think he's improved so much this season. He'd only had 1 run for Willie when he took on John Bond in the top novices. And I think he could be the sort of horse who not only wins the Arkle, wins a couple of champion chases over the next couple of years.
Okay. Physically, Don, he looked like the horse that would improve for a fence compared to John Bond. For all, I don't know how impressed you've been with the latter as well.
Yeah, look, it's a good race between the, like, it's great that they're taking each other on. Like the Irish Arkle, all we were missing was John Bond from that race. As Matt was saying, it was a hell of a race. It had lots of depth to it. They went a hell of a pace. Tyler Dynamo set that pace, as he always does, and I'm sure he's going to do the same in the Arkle. El Fabiolo, that was only his second run over fence, but when he won at Fairy House, so, like, just to expand on what Matt was saying, he made a mistake. I think the second last fence going down to Ballyhack, and then he jumped the next one really well. He made a mistake at the second last, and then he jumped the last well. And then when he made that mistake at the 4th last at Leopardstown, he jumped the 3rd last well. So it doesn't seem to phase him. And he didn't seem to lose much momentum actually at Leopardstown. So look, ideally you won't be making a mistake like that in the Arkle, because it's going to be going fast. It's a furlong shorter than the Irish is. So he's going to have to probably eradicate those mistakes from his game. But it was only a second chase. And on hurdles, like I know John beat him at entry in the top novices hurdle, but he made a really bad mistake at last fence or the last flight that day. It was only his second run over hurdles as well for Willie. So I just think he can come forward from that. And if he can just eradicate those mistakes from his armory, yeah, I agree, Matt. He could go on to be very, very good. Look, John Bond, he's got everything about his work. You know, that we're going to see a different horse at Cheltenham. So I think it's going to be a hard race between the two of them, with Dynamo saying the pace and San Rot maybe looking to pick up maybe a place in behind. But no, I think El Fabiolo, I think he's the most likely winner. I think he's more likely to win than John Bon is, and I think he should be favourite in front of him.
Well, there you are. That's what makes him the bet, I guess, that he's ever so slightly big. If you do fancy him, well worth taking the Matchbook price, because in place with other bookmakers, he's right at the top of the tree. Move on to the Champion Hurdle, which we're not really going to spend too much time on because we're out for bets. And as far as trend goes as well, there's no official trend here, because when you've got a horse like Constitution Hill, it sort of goes out the window because he's so far clear of them. Or is he? 1.43 he is. State Man 5.8. I like to move it 24.0. Vauban 26.0. Epatant's 70.0. If she's Deasy, have you got her? Are you going to back her for this? And is she absolutely guaranteed to line up in this?
Well, she's not entered in the mares, and they have to supplement her. So, is he going to do that? I mean, she has a great chance of hitting third at least here, possibly second. If
it was a cock-up, wasn't it? It was accidental that he entered in the mares.
He said that he's going to cover the cost of supplementing it, didn't he?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. I was just saying, if she turned up in this, I would back her to place, and maybe even a small bet in the without market, because you go down beyond them, and the rest of them, there's not a whole pile of depth here. Like she'd have the likes of Vauban, or I like to move it to beat. But like Constitution Hill at 1.43, sure, you could have everything on that. He'd definitely win.
But I love the idea of Nicky being like, "Don't worry, JP, I've got this.
Yeah.
I'll fork out for this." I know that everyone's put Constitution Hill, so but I don't know whether anyone is backing at 1.43. A few things to throw out there, though, Don. Can we use on a sort of form line through Honeysuckle? Can we use that form to suggest that is the right price for Constitution? How do we possibly know he's that much better than State Man, who's looked unbeatable this year and last?
Yeah, we don't. It's just all he's been doing. Like I actually thought at the start of the season that he might be vulnerable in the fighting fifth hurdle, but he's just got everything, hasn't he? Like he's got class, pace, settles, put him anywhere in the race, jumps, doesn't matter. Nothing phases him. And look, he's obviously one of the most exciting horses in training, if not the most exciting horse in training. So yeah, look, State Man is a very good horse. State Man's probably unlucky that he's around in this era now, because he won the County Hurdle, he won the Morgiana, and then he won the Leopardstown race the last day of the Irish Champion Hurdle, when I thought Paul Tynan was very good on him. He dictated a pace in front to suit him, and then he quickened off it. His jumping was very good that day. I think his jumping is improving as he's going along, especially it was way better the last day than it was in the Morgiana Hurdle. So he's a worthy opponent, and it's good that a worthy opponent has emerged. I thought Vauban might step forward a wee bit more from the Morgiana Hurdle than he did the last day, and again, from the Leopardstown race, from the Matheson race at Leopardstown over Christmas, because he seemed to be quite weak in the market, and Willie Mullen seemed to be pleasantly surprised at how well he ran, how close he got to State Man, but then he didn't get any closer in the Irish Champion Hurdle. So, and look, it's hard, as we know, for 5-year-olds. He was the best juvenile last year, but maybe the juveniles weren't as good as last year as we thought they were at the time or at the end of the season. So Vauban you can see him running well, but no, like State Man looks to be the main danger to Constitution Hill. But if Constitution Hill does what Constitution Hill has been doing, then yeah, look, it's going to be good to see him racing again.
The line through Honeysuckle is the form that she has ahead of Epatant, who of course is finished in behind Constitution Hill. I'm just wondering, Deasy, whether beating Epatants, as he has twice this season, means he deserves to be 1.43 for a champion hurdle.
He does. He looks like an absolute super horse. Like he can, if he doesn't get pace, he'll go off and make his own running. He can sit in behind. How does Paul Townend go around beating him? Like, is he going to try and get away from him? I can't see him being beat. State Man might win the champion hurdle next year if Constitution Hill goes chasing. Why not?
Matt Peter says, is course form significantly more important at Cheltenham in comparison when reviewing races at other race courses? And you can also branch out to festival form if you can.
Is that specifically for the champion hurdle or more generally?
Up to you.
Right. I don't think it's more important more generally, but in the festival races, I think festival form is particularly important because you get fast run races where the horses are at their peak, and therefore that sort of form is generally more reliable. So that'd be the key point I'd take out of it.
Okay. I really want somebody, Charlie, and the last person I'll come to is I really want somebody to say that the horse is too short, but you don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is. I think I put State Man up as a lay because I just don't think this horse can be beat. I mean, and I actually think 4.0 is probably short enough for State Man when you're talking about him taking on a horse like this. I think he's got no holes in him, you know, as in, I think it was Dee said, I don't really know what Paul Townend does to try and get the horse beat because I think whatever scenario plays out, he's just going to be way too good.
They said this about Baid in the Champion Stakes, Matt, which is a bumper they run at Ascot back in the last season. Oh,
yeah. I spent hours looking at that form and just couldn't find a way you could get beat.
They're Matt's summer bumpers, as he refers to them. Right, I'm done with that. Board of the champion hurdle. The mare's hurdle. Adele, I'll come to you first. Give you the prices. Of course, we're not absolutely certain what's going to line up. Honeysuckle 3.75, Epatante 5.7, Brandy Love is 6.8, Echoes in Rain is 9.0, Marie's Rock are possible for the stayers. We might have an angle in on there, 9.2, Love Envoy or Love Envoi 11.5, 17.5, and bigger the rest. So Adele Mulrennan, take it away.
Oh, we're not quite sure where Marie's Rock's going. I mean, ideally, from an owner's point of view, would like to think she'd go back for the mares and win the race that she won last year. But what I kind of gathered from the bit of work that happened at Kempton yesterday when Epatante worked was Hennesson's initial reactions where he was going to keep them separate and Epatante was going to go for the mares and Marie's Rock was going to go for the stayers. So either way, I'm going to go with the Henderson horse. So Epatante, if she goes, you know what you're getting with her. She's ultra professional. I mean, she literally looks as good as ever this season. Her only defeats are at the hands of Constitution Hill, who is an absolute monster. Like, he's broke 2 track records, one in the Supreme and then at Newcastle in fighting 5th. So, like, you can forgive her for that. Nice to see her get her confidence back at Doncaster. And if Marie's Rock lines up, again, I just, you know, we know what she can do. I do think she does look better over a bit further. So ideally, I was thinking she might go for the stays, and that does look like a bit more of an open contest. Obviously, if they both line up, then I'll go for Epatante. Sorry,
Thanks.
Ralph.
Yeah, sorry, Ralph. And they may well both line up, but whether Henderson wants that, we'll see. Anybody else in that camp? Charlie, you are, aren't you, with Epatante?
Yeah, I mean, I think reading between the lines, this is where she will end up, and yeah, very much so. For all the reasons Adele said, really, you know, she was very good on the last start, and there's no disgrace in chasing home Constitution Hill twice this year. She's solid festival form, former champion hurdle winner, and this is a corking race though in its own right, you know, as in for anyone that's an advocate of these mares races being at the festival, this is a strong case in point of why they should be there. It's a really good race, and I respect Honeysuckle, Brandy Love, and a few of the others. But if Epatante turns up, I'd be very much firmly with her.
Yeah, not just that, but you could argue that it's ultimately the champion hurdle is better for there being a mares program, because mares have won so many of the last few renewals. Okay, Don, is your selection heart or head?
It's a no bet for me, but a lot of heart, I'd say, Tom. Yeah, but this could be a hell of a race if Epatante runs, if Marie's Rock runs, which you kind of imagine that Marie's Rock the last couple of days or yesterday it looked like she was going for the stairs, and they had mentioned the stairs before. Brandy Love, Echoes and Rain, Love and Walk, Queensbrook, even like Queensbrook beat Anna Benigna and Brandy Love the last day. She's got Cheltenham Festival form. She finished third in a champion bumper. She finished second in the Mayor's Hurdle last year. Only just gave best to Marie's Rock close home. She traded at odds on in running, and she was good the last day. So she's interesting at a bigger price. But I know Honeysuckle, you just love to see her going and winning it. It's you just love to see her going to win, and she's rated to win it if she arrives there in the form that she was in last year or even close to it. She's going to take all the beating, and I suppose it's a lot of heart, Tom. But I think head as well. I think she's the right favourite for the race.
Matt, I'll come to you, and you can answer Helen's question. She says, with ex-champ hurdlers in this, do the trends struggle?
I think that's a really good question, Helen. I don't think that there are many trends for this race generally, and it's partly to do with exactly that. When this first started, Quivega was running around against vastly inferior horses, very predictable. Now it's got a much deeper race. So, not something I'd be looking at trends for at all here.
Who are you with?
Well, I've got a strategy here, and I've got a question for the guys. What price do we think Honeysuckle goes off if all the major players line up here? Anyone want to make a guess?
Well, she goes off. She goes off.
3.5.
2 favourite.
4.0.
Oh shit!
And so, what is she now on the Matchbook Exchange?
That's a good question. I've just read it out. What is she, producer Dan? We've had Shane says 4.0, 3.0 Peter's Punts, 5.2 Alex, 4.0 Helen. A few more coming in. I'm not sure what I've just read out what she is currently, and I haven't got it up in front of me now. But
right. So the point of my question was, a lot of people are saying that she'll go off roughly the same sort of price. Some a bit shorter. Some say she'll drift, probably depending on their own view of her chances. I think there's going to be an absolute wall of money for her post-declaration. There'll be a huge amount of sentimentality going on here. When you've got a high-profile horse like this, the trainers are almost obliged at this stage of their career to say they're working the houses down at home. And so what I think will happen is in the last 2 or 3 days, she'll shorten up a lot. So I'm going for a back-to-lay strategy. Back her now, lay her there on the day, get your stake money, and then look at what's in the race, because the two I'm most interested in, Marie's Rock and Echoes in Rain, aren't certain runners. So I'll have a look at it again, hopefully with that stake money at that stage.
Okay, so she's 3.75 now. We know where she's running. And let's say they all don't turn up, then she's definitely going to be shorter. So
I honestly think if most, Marie's Rock and Epatante, I think one of those will run. But even if the rest of them turn up, I think she'll go off about 2.5, 2.7.
Which is, that's Alex's quote on what he thinks she'll go off. Interesting. All right. And who haven't we come to? Deasy, you're looking a bit further away.
Yeah, I'm putting up my second potential non-runner in a row. I thought She Wears It Well is a very big price. I don't know what she favoured for this at one stage last year, or was it the Mayor's Novice? But she's always been kind of highly touted, and I think it just took her a while to get the hang of it. And this year, no, she is qualified for the Pretemps. She ran her first one, she ran in a Pretemps qualifier, won it fairly well, and she beat Queensbrook then over Christmas in receipt of a few pounds. But she's going to be nearly top weight in the Pretemps. There's decent prize money in this, and as we said, no, I just think she's vastly overpriced. I think she's 18.0, so I definitely have a little win place betting her in this, because William Mullins mares can produce shocks, and it's a pick 'em between the top three. I hope Marie's Rock goes for this, but as I said, if it's heavy ground on the first day, that'll probably go against her. But I'm gonna go for just probably a bigger price one at the moment. She Wears It Well.
27.0. She Wears It Well. I think Peter's Punts agrees with you. That's our grade 1 action done. We're going to come to any other bets. I don't want long explanations at all, and I'll just go in order for me here. So, Matt, first of all, your other bet for Tuesday.
Churchstone Warrior in the not quite 4 miler. That used to be a race for a lot of experience. We only have half a dozen of them hacking round now, so that's less of a trend as Statler showed against Run Wild Fred last year. I think he's a big price.
Having won the 10 up last time. Don.
Oscar Elite in the Ultimate finished 3rd in the race last year behind Korak Rambler. It's a race that does foster horses who run well before, go and run well in it again. He was very good in winning the Randallstown last time, beat a horse rate at 145. He's off a mark of 139 now, only £1 higher than he was last year when he was £4 out of the handicap. And he's a spring horse as well. He goes well at this time of year and he goes well at Cheltenham.
We love a bet in the Ultima. Adele.
I'm going in the Ultima as well. I'm going for a horse called Inter Overdrive. North have won this the last 2 years. Hopefully it's going to be a 3rd time as well. His only defeat this season has come at the hands of Lahon Press, so he's done very, very little wrong. Hopefully he's a big enough price that you can back him in the place market, but I would be having a small win and a place bet on him.
Notably, it's the race as well that the Irish, about the only handicap they got a shit record in. Deasy.
The North are going to win it 3 years in a row. Adele, it's going to be Corach Rambler. Corach Rambler is going to piss up in this again. He's only £6 higher than he was last year. He's had a nice, easy prep this year. He'll win this and he'll go very close in the Grand National as well.
Matt, what is the trend's minimum getting into the Ultima, if you've got it there? If you don't, I'll move on and come back to you.
All 4 handicap chases now, the last couple of years, there have been only the maximum of 1 horse eliminated in any of those renewals. So basically, if you want to run, you can get it.
Fine. Simple as that. Charlie, where are you looking?
National Hunt Chase, Marlon Mission for John McConnell. I think they booked Barry O'Neill. I think solid jumper. I think he'll relish the extra step up in trip.
Okay, best lays now. Just the name of the horse is all we need. No explanation required. Please. Matt, your best lay?
John Bond.
Don, have you got one?
No, probably John Bond at the price as well against El Fabiolo, yeah.
Okay. Adele, your best lay?
I can't remember if I put El Fabiolo or did I put? I'm going to say, did I put Facile Vega? I'll lay both of them anyway. Yeah, so I've got 2 now.
Yeah, in your face, Willie Mullins. And speaking of that, Charlie.
Yeah, I put up State Man, the champion hurdle, but also John Bond as well.
Okay, DC.
Goyard de Menil in the National Hunt Chase.
Okay. And I'm joining in on the best lays and best bets. And my first lay is Constitution Hill at the prices. I think he's too short.
Oh, no.
State Man. And Inspiral got beaten at Falmouth Stakes.
Yeah. I knew you were going to bring that up.
There you go. I think he's too short. I don't care. I genuinely think he's too short against State Man, who I really respect. I'm sure he'll win, but I think he's too short. Simple as that. Best bets. My best bet is Facile Vega on day 1. Matt?
El Fabiolo.
Don?
Marine Nacional in the Supreme Novice Hurdle.
I love this Matt Adele head to head. Adele, your best bet?
Yeah, I've gone John Bon in the Arkle.
Good. Charlie, your best bet?
Epperton if she runs in the Mayor's Hurdle.
And DC?
Corach Rambler in the Ultimate.
Wednesday, the Brown Advisory kicks us off. Ollie Murphy has Thunder Rock running here. Don't forget you can listen to his thoughts and his chances tomorrow. First up then, Matt, you can come straight back in. There's a few shouts for the real whacker. Tell us why and also give us your...
You've missed the ITV one.
Wrong race.
Oh, have I? What have I missed?
The Ballymore.
Ballymore.
He's only doing the ITV main channel races.
Yeah, because the Ballymore's on ITV4, so I just skipped past it. Sorry, everyone. Right, well, yeah, Hermes Allen is 4.2. This is the Ballymore. And Gaelic Warrior 6.6, and Derek Passe 4.3. Goodland 7.2. 12.0 Champ Kylie 17.0 in the pocket. All right, the Ballymore. I tell you what, Adele, you come in first of all because you're on your own with this one.
I thought a few other people might have picked him, but obviously not. Maybe I see something completely different. I think this horse has got a serious engine. Like, it's amazing how the summer can kind of really help a horse mature, and he's certainly one that has matured massively. I mean, the Chello was a completely kind of different test for him. I mean, the ground was awful, wasn't it? And it certainly wasn't stopping him. Just hard, I think, to find any kind of holes in any of his performances. We know he handles Cheltenham, he handles various grounds, he's got a good attitude, a really good gallop, a relentless gallop, I think, more than anything. The fact that 6 pulled up in the Chello, I think, kind of shows that it was, you know, very much quite a test that day. Yeah, so I just think, like I said, I couldn't really find any negatives about him, unless anyone else has got any that I don't know of.
I know a man who does. You're going to Cheltenham Tuesday again. It's ridiculous.
And it's not that I'm against Hermes Allen as a horse. I agree with what Adele says. If I could choose any of these as a long-term prospect, it'd be him. But you look at the way Paul trains his horses. Had Denman beaten in this, Rock on Ruby, Brave Man's Game. He's already said Ballymore's not his be-all and end-all. So I think there's an element of how hard trained he'll be. But there is also a trend. All 20 winners of the Cheltenham Hurdle to have run in the Ballymore were beaten. 10 of them went off 6.0 or shorter. The reason for the bad record is what Adele was talking about, the ground. They provide hugely different tests. There's a real stamina-sapping effort in the Cheltenham. Contrast the Ballymore, quicker ground, start in the middle of the course, the big sweeping bend. They don't get racing very early, tend to go steadily. A test of speed at the trip, which Cheltenham winners don't tend to be suited by.
So you like the Mullins horse?
I do. I'm really sweet on him. I think he should be clear favourite for it. He really impressed me in the Moscow Flyer, relaxed and professional, and that's important in the Ballymore because they go steadily, jumps really slickly, got a real turn of foot. If you're setting out the criteria you want for the Ballymore, he's a perfect match. And at the time, the Moscow Flyer form didn't look great. But she could be anything, looked like winning the Apples Jade the other day until her stamina ran out over 2.5. The fourth one next time, then run well at the Dublin Racing Festival. So on visual impression, Impere Pass is the best novice hurdler I've seen so far. And having the ideal profile, he's a banker for me here.
Charlie?
Yeah, I just echo that. I mean, you got the vibe as well that he's one of these horses that just continues to impress way more on the track than he does at home, which I think is likeable. Again, I wouldn't be against Hermes Allen. I think he's a similar sort of profile. It doesn't sound like he shows a lot at home, but brings it to the races. And if Deasy is to be believed and the Tuesday starts off on heavy ground, it's going to be bottomless by the time they race on Wednesday. So it might suit Hermes Allen. But for me, Impere Pass, for all the reasons Matt said.
All right, there's a couple for Impere Pass and then a few more out a little bit more left field. Don?
Yeah, I share the view on Hermes Allen, like a lovely horse, but the Cheltenham Hurdle, it tends to be more appointed for a longer race. At Time Hill, he won the Cheltenham, he ran really well in the Albert Bartlett. Micheál Lyman won the Albert Bartlett. Even Denman got beaten in the Ballymore, having won the Cheltenham Hurdle. So I think it's going to be a big ask unless the ground comes up soft. But yeah, I just think Cham Kiley is kind of an under the radar horse. He's a wee bit weak now on Matchbook, which is a little bit of a worry in terms of him taking his chance. But I just thought that like his win the last day in the Lawlers of Naas race, that was a really good performance. I know Danny Mullins rode a really good race from the front and dictated, but he quickened up well. He saw the trip well, and he's got that mix of pace and stamina that you need for a Ballymore. He was sent off as a short price favourite for the Royal Bond Hurdle, an odds-on shot for the Royal Bond Hurdle, and he was just too keen that day. He wasn't as keen the last day at Naas. He settled better in front, and I think a reproduction of that Naas run will bring him close. He should progress from it as well. So yeah, as long as he goes and takes his chance in the race, I think it's his only entry at the festival. So I can see him going there as a Willie Mullins second string for sure behind Impere Pass. Like, I agree with the lads on him. He was very good the last day, and he won his maiden over 2 miles 3. Then he showed the pace to win a Moscow Flyer over 2 miles. So he's got lots of arrows in his armory. But I just think Cham Kiley is a wee bit underrated.
And DC.
Yeah, I'm going for in the pocket, Henry the Bramhead's horse. We actually covered this race as one of the first kind of previews I did with Matt in December, and I put him up then. And he's pretty much the same price now. He was well backed on seasonal debut at Wexford and won very easily. And then he stepped up in grade. Then he took on 3-card Bragg and Absolute Notions at Naas in a grade 2, and it just looked a very classy horse. He was weak in the market, and he still managed to just breeze past. No, he only won by an extra 3-card Bragg was coming back on him, but I thought he had plenty in hand there. He finished second in that head, Tom, but he was not beaten 9.5 lengths, but again, 2 miles is too short. I can't see him being 16.0 on the day. I think he's completely overlooked. This is a very, very good race. You could make a good argument for all the top 6 in the market. I could anyway, except for Parmesan. But I'm going to go for the bigger price one in the pocket.
Right, I'm very much with you on Hermes-Allen, Adele. Don't you worry. Are we done with anyone else want to add anything? I think we're about there, aren't we? We've got 4 different selections. 2 with Imperial Pass, Hermes-Allen, Champ Kylie, and In the Pocket. We move on to the Brown Advisory then. As I say, Thunder Rock lines up here for Ollie Murphy. You can hear his thoughts on that tomorrow morning. Matt, you tell us the stat here. I guess it really relates to Ty Hill mainly in the race, who no one's putting up. And then you can come in with who you like and why.
Yeah, so since Young Hustler won 30 years ago, all 90 runners that had 2 or more full seasons over hurdles have been beaten. Every horse needs treating individually, but as a staying chaser, you want to get over fences as quickly as possible, not putting miles in their legs slogging around in 3-mile graded conditions hurdles. So that's very much against Time Hill. Whilst I like Jerry Colomb, I'm just a bit worried about the ground for him from an anti-post perspective. Providing there's cut, I can see myself backing him on the day. But at the moment, I'm interested in the Real Whacker. I thought he was really good in the Dipper, which is a good trial for this. He won over course and distance in November. His bold, jumping, front-running style, he looked an absolute natural and proved a heck of a lot so far over fences. And yeah, he is in the Gold Cup, and I know the trainer's still talking about it. I can't believe off just 2 novice chases they're going to do that. So I'm fairly sure he's going to turn up here. I think this is going to cut up quite badly. And so I still think that he could shorten a fair bit. So he's the anti-post bet, and then I'll assess on the day about whether I bet Jerry Colomb as well, even at a short price, because the ground's in his favour.
And absolute scenes as Toombs and Mulrennan agree, Adele.
God, it was a race that I was kind of like I kind of was struggling to kind of really commit to one, and Patrick Neville is a bit of a character, and he does really well, like with what he's got. He can train this guy, and he's always fought a lot of the Real Whacker, and as Matt's already said, you know, the Dipper has always been kind of like a good pointer for this race. So listen, he is. Like he gallops and he jumps, like he's brave as well. So, you know, if you're going to put your money on something at Cheltenham, you want to be putting it on a horse who won't go down without a fight. And he's a horse that certainly won't. So that's why I've got him inside for that race in a race that was a little bit, I couldn't, you know, like find a really, really strong one. So I just thought he is like, I know what I'm getting with him. You know, you're going to get a run for your money.
Liam says Matt's worried about the ground for Jerry. Has he seen the weather forecast? But he has made that point, Liam, that anti-post wise, you wouldn't back in now because you just want to know what the ground is going to be like. Charlie, where would you be with the ground for your selection? Do you think he has to have genuinely soft ground?
Well, I suppose if you're listening to connections, there's that possibility. But I'd have thought the ground is, well, at the very least, it's going to be good to soft, and for that reason, I think he'll definitely be there. I was tried to take him on at Sandown. It was a big mistake. I think he's a gorgeous, gorgeous horse. I actually think Balco Coastal, who he beat at Sandown, could run a big race in the Turners if that's where he's going to end up. I think he's a horse with a big engine as well, and he beat him readily. I think the likes of the Real Whacker in here going a good gallop will only help him. He seems to switch off. He jumps nicely enough, and he just looks to have the world at his feet, Tom. You know, I think this horse that could be coming back for a Gold Cup next year.
Don first, then Deasy. You can come in one after each other.
Yeah, I agree with Charlie completely. Jerry Colomb, I was against him at Sandown as well. I thought the combination of 2.5 miles Sandown and good to soft ground, it just wasn't a stiff enough test for him. and it did look like Arkle Coastal was travelling better over the pan fence and around the home turn. But he's just so gritty. He just dug deep and won well in the end. And Gordon Elliott says he doesn't do much at home. A totally different horse to Mighty Potter. And he's never been beaten. Bumpers, hurdles, fences, he's never been beaten. The step up and trip to 3 miles should be a positive for him. He won over 2 miles 7 over hurdles on yielding ground at Thurles back in January last year. So I think he obviously he handles a bit of cut. He's good on easy ground, but the step up and trip, I think, should compensate for the fact that he's going to probably or possibly face faster ground than he has been doing in Ireland. But I thought at Sandown the last day, he answered a few more questions. We learned more about him at Sandown, because Sandown, it's not as stiff a track as Cheltenham, obviously, over 2.5 miles on good and soft ground. He showed pace enough to be able to win a Grade 1 race to Scilly Isles Chase under those conditions. So, yeah, look, he's a potential Gold Cup horse as well next year, please God, as Mighty Potter is. I'd just be interested to see what they do with Gaillard de Menil and Ramillies, because it looks, they're kind of both shaping up for the National Hunt Chase, but it wouldn't be surprising if, given they're owned by Marie Donnelly and trained by Willie Mullins, that one of them might run here. It looks like Gaillard de Menil has had the National Hunt Chase on his radar for a while, so Ramillies might run here, and I could see him running well at a bit of a price if he does. But no, Jerry Calhoun, I think he's the most likely winner by a fair way.
Go on then, Dees.
Yeah, look, just on the real whacker, he's visually very impressive. He goes off out in front and he jumps and visually very impressive. But if you dig into it, he beat Indigo Breeze there for he's a Gordon Elliott horse. Like, he's rated 135 now, and he beat him by 3/4 of a length. And Indigo Breeze gave him a fright. I mean, he wouldn't be able to work with Jory Clam when Jory Clam was hungover. And the same the last day, he over 2.5 miles in the Dipper. He beat Man Morale by 3.25 lengths. Jory Clam beat him by 24 lengths at Sandown, going up that hill. So I can't have the real whacker, and I think Jory Clam is the real deal. Basically, I think he's absolutely class, and he'd probably go off very close to even money or odds on in the day.
Nick Palfrey, I think, agrees with you. Next year, the real whacker will be in the Ultima. He still might be in the Gold Cup this year. Never know. Unlikely, but they gave him that entry. Let's move on to a belter of a race and a betting heat, I think, as well. The Champion Chase. So prices, first of all. Last time I looked, it was last year's winner at the top of the market, Energumen, although Edwardstone was shortening up and closing in a little bit. We'll flash them up for you very shortly. DC, I think you're spot on with Edwardstone, 2.96. Energumen is 3.05. So Edwardstone with Matchbook does head the betting. Editor G 7.8. DC.
Yeah, I look, tipping a fab, we can't say there's value in his price, but I think out of them all, he's probably been the best of them this year. For all that he lost the last time, he just gave Editor G an easy lead, and if he had got going, 5 or 6 strides before he did, he might have caught him. There's no way he'll get an easy lead this time, and I mean, Gentleman to Me will be up there with him. I just think Edwardstone probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, and he was a good winner of the Arkle last year, and I think he deserves to be favoured here, and I think he has a right chance.
Yeah, with you all the way there, as is Adele.
You're unmuted then.
Am I? Oh, yeah. I could never desert him anyway. I absolutely love Edwardstone, and yeah, I mean, Tom, I don't know, maybe could have made a move a little bit sooner, but it's hard, isn't it, when you're trying to ride your own race, and especially after what happened at Kempton, he was probably just kind of making sure, he got himself into a good rhythm and made sure he was jumping well before he kind of really challenged him. Editor De Geet had gone already. I'm glad someone's tipped him, though, because that horse does deserve to be mentioned. Like, what he's done this season is the way you can just go out and, like, he gallops, man. That horse is, like, he's so brave. So I'm glad someone's mentioned him. But Edwardstone, for me, like, I still think his head was down literally just after the line. I think he had kind of had the phrase, he was like up when he kind of really needed it, but then after the line it was down. I think he might have just edged it, but but I'm going with him anyway. So, but I'm glad someone's mentioned Editor De G, because he does deserve mentioning.
Yeah, go on, Matt. You can jump straight in there and give us just your trend as well.
So the trend is that winners of this season's Desert Orchid Chase are 6 from 14, 144% profit. Hunters tend to look at the Desert Orchids at right-handed, sharp, flat track, completely different test. And that's all true, but the common element between the Desert Orchid and the Champion Chase is both races are all about speed. Whereas races like the Tingle Creek, and in particular the Dublin Chase and the Clarence House, when it's at Ascot, are more a mix of speed and stamina. And there's a misconception you need a 2.5 miler in the Champion Chase. You don't. It's all about speed, and it's about jumping at an eyes-out gallop. So the Desert Orchid tends to be a much better trial than the market gives it credit for. Just going back to that Clarence House, remember that Edwardstone did get past Editor de Gite. You traded at 1.01, I think, but Editor de Gite just out-battled him at the end. And I think the old course could really suit Editor de Gite. It's a speed test, 133 yards shorter, possibly on quicker ground. It'll help. His jumping will be a real asset there. Edwardstone is a really good, strong stayer at the trip. Really lovable horse, very good finishing effort generally. But in the Arkle last year, they didn't go quite as quickly as usual. And in the Desert Orchid, where they probably went a bit too quickly early on, just seemed to get him out of his comfort zone, and he tipped up at the 5th. So whilst I very much respect Edwardstone, I think the price differential between them is too big. So the value bet is Editor de Gite. We're going to come on to Gentleman de Me in a minute. He's one I'd definitely be looking at the vibes are in the run up to the race, because he's very much a spring horse.
Don, tell us more.
He is. He really is. Like he beat Edwardstone in the Micheál Chase last year. So, and maybe Edwardstone underperformed a wee bit after the Arkle, but I don't think he underperformed that much. And Gentleman de Me, and like Aintree suits him really well. He jumped well. He's a free going sort, and like he was very disappointing earlier this season. He ran 3 times, got beaten in all 3 races. Early in the season, through the winter, on soft ground, for all that it was officially yielding at Leopardstown over Christmas. But then he came out at the Dublin Racing Festival in the Dublin Chase, and he was very, very good. He had done Vegan for company for over the first 3 or 4 fences, so he didn't get a solo in front, but his jumping was very good. He beat Blue Lord impressively. Now maybe Blue Lord underperformed a little bit as well, but he's a coming horse. All his form last season was in the spring from March onwards, and he's just a horse who I just think he's under the radar. Like, he was a massive prize for the Champion Chase before the Dublin Racing Festival. He's not as big now, obviously, as he was then, but he's still big. And as Matt was saying, the speed test that is this track at the Champion Chase on good to yielding ground, or good to soft ground or thereabouts, that will suit him really well. And look, it's a hell of a matchup between Energumen and Edwardstone, with Editor de Gite in there as well. But I think Gentleman de Me he's a horse who's underrated and therefore overpriced. I think he'll run well at a big price.
Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Don not put Gentleman de Me up at the Dublin Racing Festival as well, and he is a spring horse, no doubt about it. And he's beaten Edwardstone. The 2 at the top of the market are short, considering they've both shown that they are vulnerable as well. I mean, the one thing I definitely don't buy into is Energumen being put off by the white paint on the British fences last time out. As in, I think that was a really poor excuse, if I'm honest. But he could bounce back. But like I say, I just think both of them are short when they've shown that they are beatable. And Editor de Gite is a worthy opponent, and Gentleman de Me especially so. You know, he's obviously second season chaser. He was a Grade 1 winning novice, and he was very, very impressive like last time, beating a good horse in Blue Lord. So I think at 10.0, he's way overpriced in this.
He was put up by Don at 8.5 at Dublin Racing Festival. He's also one of Matt's horses to follow this year. Okay, any other bets? Just the horse and the race they're running in. Matt Toombs.
Encanto Bruno in the bumper.
Donn McClean.
A Dream to Share in the bumper.
Adele.
I've gone Irish Hill in the Coral Cup. If he runs in it, he's also entered in the Martin Pipe as well.
Okay, I suppose you never know, do you? Charlie, I love this one, and so will our producer Dan Hussey.
Well, Langadan in the Coral Cup, and unless one of my best mates is putting me away, that is where he's running.
Wow. Now, I haven't checked which race. I just assumed you were going for the Pipe. He's in the Pipe as well, isn't he?
Well, I got told he's going for the Coral Cup. So, and like I say,
shit on the chat. I can confirm he's losing it right now.
but it wouldn't be beyond one of my best friends to be putting me away. So he might be doing this to make me look like a complete prat. But yeah, Coral Cup, Langadan.
Okay.
Is your best friend called Micheál by any chance?
Called what?
Micheál.
No.
No, wasn't me.
Definitely not.
Wasn't me.
Just for Twitter purposes, Charlie Poste says Langadan will definitely run in the Coral Cup. Deasy.
San Ra, if he goes in the Grand Annual, great chance. And Beacon Edge in the Coral Cup.
Okay. Best lays, just the horse. I will, well, trading wise, I'll be backing Edwardstone in the run. I'm sure he'll trade bigger. Matt.
Time Hill.
Don.
An argument, I think he'd be bigger than he is at the minute.
Okay. And DC.
I will be place laying Hermes Allen, and I'll be place laying an Orgamine.
That's it for lays on the day, right?
Yeah,
Good.
I haven't got one.
Fine. Best bets then. Hermes Allen for me. Adele.
Hermes Allen.
Nichols. Matt.
Imperial Pass should be favourite for Ballymore, and I think he will be on the day.
Disgrace. Don.
Gentleman de May at a price in the champion chase.
Charlie.
Jerry Colomb.
And DC.
Johnny Kilometer.
He changed it at the last minute. It did say Sonwa, but he's changed it.
That's the wrong section there.
Yeah, well done. Thursday. Okay, the Turners. Prices will come up very shortly. But Don, I think Banbridge was one of your horses to follow this year. He's done very well. There he is, 5.0. Mighty Potter is 2.42. Appreciate It is 4.7. 14.0 Balco Coastal. Don.
Yeah, look, Mighty Potter looks monstrous. Really, he's a worthy favourite, and I think the right favourite as well. Like he's a dual Grade 1 winner over hurdles last season as a novice. For all that he did disappoint in the Supreme Novices, and then this year he looked really good in winning the Drinmore, and then I thought looked even better in winning the novice chase at the Dublin Racing Festival. But I suppose he is short, and there is that little worry in your head that when he went to Cheltenham last year, it just didn't happen for him. Now, look, there were excuses, but he just he made a mistake early on, and he was pulled up. Jack Kennedy pulled him up, so he has to get over that. And when you're dealing with a short-priced horse, I think you need everything in your favour, including horse form. So that's just a wee bit of a niggle. Whereas Banbridge, he probably doesn't have the proven class that Mighty Potter has, and he was well behind him in the Drinmore chase, but that was on soft ground. He won the Martin Pipe Hurdle last season. I thought he might step up and trip further at the start of the season. It was the Brown Advisory Chase that had him in mind for him when we spoke at the start of the season, but he showed pace enough to win the Arkle trial at Cheltenham at the November meeting over 2 miles exactly, not an extended 2 miles. And then last time at Leopardstown in the Irish Arkle, he was the one who was kind of finishing off his race. He was outpaced by the front runners, including El Fabiolo early on or on the run out of the back straight, but he stayed on really well to just get up for second place. And I think that's the run that kind of confirmed connections that 2.5 miles was going to be his trip, not 2 miles, because he was under consideration for the Arkle. But I just think with the Cheltenham Festival winning form, we know the Martin Pipe Hurdle can be a springboard to Grade 1 success. And yeah, I think the better ground. He's a super jumper. He's a really fluent and accurate jumper, and on goodish ground that can be seen to good effect. And I think he can give Mighty Potter a race.
Tom, good luck with your 16-1, 17.0 win place on Banbridge. Let's go, he says. Adele.
Yeah, no, exactly the same reason. I like the fact that he's got chase form there as well. I just think, like what Don already said, in the Irish Arkle, he looked like he was kind of really staying on. So I think the triple suit him absolutely perfectly. We know he handles Cheltenham. He handles that stiff finish. And at the prices, I thought he was definitely the one I wanted on side. I haven't got too much to add because Don's already said it, but they're all the reasons why.
Yep, absolutely fine. Charlie?
I'm with Mighty Potter. I mean, I completely respect what Don's saying about the Supreme last year and the flop there, but just thought he was incredibly impressive at Fairy House. He made 2 bad pecks and just literally didn't break stride. And then he was better again at the Dublin Racing Festival. His jumping was much slicker, and just think he looks like another one of Gordon Elliott's that could be the real deal as a chaser. Yeah, I love this horse.
I think DC agrees with you.
Yeah, I couldn't get out of my head just how the Drinmore, how he just loomed up and just went past him. I thought it was, and I got watched again last night. I watched a lot of the race again now last night just to get the fresh eyes on him, and it was still as impressive. Then I think he's class. Bamber just very well as well. This is there could be a few more lurkers in this race, but I think Mighty Potter could just be different level.
The Drinmore, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all 17 winners of the Drinmore have run in this, the festival have been beaten. And the theory behind this is the best novice in late November isn't usually the best novice in March. Horses improve at different rates. I wouldn't overstate this trend. I like Mighty Potter, and he did become the first Drinmore winner since Harbour Pilot to follow up in the Moriarty, the Dublin Racing Festival. But when, as Don was saying, if you've got a very short price favourite, you want them to be bomb-proof. So I'm just about prepared to take him on. And with Balco Coastal, who looked as if he was coming to win the Scilly Isles, just got outstayed. The thing about him is I think there's loads of improvement to come for dropping back slightly in trip, for going left-handed. He jumped to his left at Sandown. For the run, Nicky said he's a stuffy horse, had a right good blow afterwards. Nobody's horses improved more than Nicky's from their prep run to the festival. Apparently worked well at Kempton yesterday. Nicky was saying he's looking big as he was at Sandown, so the vibes are good. He said they're going to be riding him a bit more patiently for a turn of foot. And Nicky said in the autumn he was only aiming Balco Coastal at the turners, not the Arkles, because he had John Mon. So I think he's a really quick and classy horse. And at 14.0, he's just too big a price here.
We move on to the Ryanair then. And Matt, I'll bring you straight back in because Shishkin he's pretty clearly the best horse in the race. And I mean, last time he not just looked a better horse at the trip, he just looked a different prospect altogether, didn't he?
Absolutely. And ratings and simple things like that have been important in the Ryanair. 9 of the last 12 renewals have been won by the top 2 in the ratings. You'd have made profits backing them blind. And every year in the Ryanair, there's a season-long debate about which horses will run. Connections generally start with aspirations to win one of the 2 championship chases. The vast majority of the best horses run in one of those, but events, and also Willie Mullins' approach to splitting his horses up, generally result in 1 or 2 top notches in this. They generally outclass the field. You look at the market for that, but also the ratings. Shishkin's on 174. And whilst the BHA ratings for the Irish horses aren't out yet, he's £8 clear based on domestic ratings. So that suggests he should be a really short price here. And anything around 2.0, I think, is a really good price. I think he'll win and win easily.
Yeah. Liam says Shishkin to bounce. Hemvoy Allen to win. Giddy up. Shishkin 1.93. Blue Lord 7.2. Janadil 10.0. And Allen is 19.5. Adele?
Off on that. That bounce point, I've heard a bit about that. Remember, Shishkin did run in the Tingle Creek. It's not as if that Ascot Chase was his first run of the season. If that had been the case, I could imagine the bounce factor might have been an issue, but not now.
Okay. And it's not an issue for you, Adele, clearly.
No, like what I took out of Ascot was just how much better he was going that bit slower, like how much better he was. Like he travelled, I mean, his jumping was beautiful, wasn't it? He literally was an absolute joy to watch. I mean, he's one of them horses. He doesn't ever really knock your socks off when you see him. He's a big horse who sometimes you look at him like for the age of him, you still look at him and think, oh God, he still looks like he needs to fill out because he has angles everywhere on his shoulders, on his quarters. But he's just that kind of horse, you know. He's a real big kind of old fashioned kind of looking horse. He looked $1 million, but like he won so impressively at Ascot. I spoke to Nico afterwards, and he said he felt like he was back to his best. So if he said that, if he felt that, then who am I to disagree? I think he was a joy to watch, and I just thought it was nice to see him go that little bit slower, and he looked like he really enjoyed it. And they did go a strong gallop. It's not as if they went slow. Like he went a good gallop.
Charlie, do you think he should be shorter even now?
Potentially, yeah, I do. Yeah, I think he's a standout in this race. I'm not sure. I don't really buy into the whole bounce thing anyway. If I'm being completely honest, even if this was a factor, he's a class horse. I mean, he looked to have everything in front of him before, like the Champion Chase last year. I mean, fair play to Nicky Henderson. He's brought him back, and he was massively impressive at Ascot the last day. He's obviously second run back from his wind up. And yeah, I think 2.0, as Matt said, I think is a cracking good bet in this race.
Deasy, where are you looking?
Yeah, like Shishkin, I placed late Shishkin last time just in case he blew up, but like he seemed to be written off, and on the back of 2 bad runs. Like Shishkin has won 12 out of his 15 races, which is an incredible record, and I can see him winning this quite easily. And I'm actually going for the same bet as I did last year, Janadil in the without market, or Janadil for the forecast, a straight forecast. He is just a Ryanair kind of horse. He's too slow for 2 miles and doesn't stay 3 miles, and just comes in right in the middle. Won very well the last day at Goran, nice prep. Yeah, I can see him running into second, so I'm happy enough to stick with him.
Imagine being a Ryanair type of horse. I guess that's a bit like being Spursy in football. Donn.
Ryanair. I love the new adjective, Ryanair.
He's a bit Ryanair. Go on, Donn.
Yeah, look, I like Janadil. Look, what the lads all said about Shishkin, of course, he's the highest rated horse. He's got course form. He was so good the last day, standing up to 2.5 miles or beyond 2.5 miles. And as Adele said, like, he travelled so well. He jumped really well. He looked to be in his comfort zone. Nicky Anderson said all of that afterwards as well, that he just loved the way he travelled. So, look, he's going to take a lot of beating. But I think Janadil is a bit underrated still. The Ryanair picture changed completely in about 8 minutes between Shishkin winning at Ascot and then the Red Mills chase at Goran, where Otan Collar was beaten by Janadil. And I thought Rachel Blackmore was very good in Janadil. She kept him in behind. 4th of the 4 runners turned for home. And he showed a turn of foot to hit the front of the last and then stayed on. Well, he was a wee bit weak in the market beforehand as well. So while he is a horse that goes well fresh, you'd still expect that he will improve at least a little bit for that. And yeah, he's got good Cheltenham form. He probably would have been 3rd behind Allaho last year. Conflated hadn't come down at the second last, but he stayed on to finish 2nd behind him. And I can see him running well again and on just a 2nd run of the season. And if Shishkin doesn't perform up to the performance that he put up last time at Ascot, I can see him going close.
Liam says Vitor would never have signed for bloody Spurs. That's so true. And as a Spurs fan, that hurts. That's a very good point. The Stayers Hurdle, everyone's gone there in the Ryanair, haven't they? The Stayers Hurdle then, this has done a real shake-up recently, certainly in the last month or so. So Blazing Carl is now 3.85. Marie's Rock is 6.4 if she goes there. She shortened up of late with thoughts that she's going to run here. Home by the Lee, 7.6. Tiupo is 8.0. 10.5 Flooring Porter, bigger prices. The rest. Charlie, then. I come to you with a horse that seemed to appreciate the distance last time.
Yeah, Tiupo. I mean, he ran in the Champion Hurdle last year. I must admit, I found this a tricky race. I think it's wickedly open. You know, with Blazing Carl, Tiupo, Marie's Rock, Home by the Lead. Like there's a lot of horses with sort of, I would have said, sort of similar chances in this. And I kind of tentatively came down with him, like you say. He was good at Fairy House on his seasonal debut, beating Classical Dream, and then he was even more impressive, granted, beating Somerville Boy, who's very much in the veteran stage. And it just could be that he's also with plenty of back class that has been sort of improved again by stepping up to this marathon trip, the 3 mile stay and hurdle trip. And I just thought he had a bit of upside against horses that have probably shown their hand a bit more, Tom, but it would be one that I'd just be a bit lukewarm about.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know how much confidence anyone's got behind their selections. Deasy, how confident are you about a horse that was pretty well held last year?
Well, he was pretty well. Home by the Lee is my horse. If you watch that race back, like coming down the hill, he was behind by a distance. He's not even in the shot when they come into the home straight, and he came absolutely flying home. Completely different horse this year. He's won his 2 races very well. They brought him along nicely. He's a nice enough price. Like I think he should be shorter. I think Tiupo is arguing about this during the weekend on Twitter that he's very ground dependent, and I thought at the time he wasn't going to get his ground. He might know. So I mean, if it's heavy ground, he's a great chance. And Blazing Carl is his price because half of Ireland have been backing him for the last few months. Anti-post for this, and I'd say they have just gigantic liabilities on him now. And I have a small man, so I kind of hope he wins. But I'll be back in Home by the Lee as well that day.
Helen says Tiupo, emphasis on the poo. I will remember that going into Cheltenham. Thank you. Where are we going next? All right, Matt, you can come in with your stat and your selection here.
So the stat is that in the first 14 renewals this century, every winner went off 9.5 or shorter, front 4 in the market. 8 renewals since, only 3 have gone off short of 11.0. Used to be a shallow race, often dominated by a standout horse. Best horses got concentrated in fewer hands, had to split up, the race has deepened. And that really looks on point this year. And not only that, there isn't a bomb-proof one at the front of the market. Blazing Carl's a bit fragile, got an inexperienced jockey. Teahupoo, the question marks about the ground. Home by the Limb, Paisley Park will be seriously inconvenienced if it's not truly run, and so on. So I think the best bit of form this season is that Christmas hurdle at Leopardstown. I think the values with the consistent runner-up there, Ashdale Bob, in both the win and especially the place markets. Because his 2 open grade ones, about 3 mile, neither have been run to suit him. At the Punchestown Festival, they went steadily on good to yielding ground, done for a turn of foot, couldn't quite get to Classical Dream, finished really quickly. At Punchestown, that was speed. At Leopardstown, it was a real slog. He travelled much the best into the straight and in the straight and got outslugged by Home by the Lee. So a typical, not overly strong gallop on a sound surface in the stayers suit him ideally. Like a lot of Jessica's, he seems to thrive in the spring. Harrington Yard's always been streaky, but they're out of form when Ashdale Bob was second at Christmas. Just coming into some form now that typically thrive at Cheltenham and Punchestown. So in a very open race with no bomb-proof candidate, I don't want to play at a short price. I'd rather play at a big price in both the win and the place markets.
Adele's being a romantic with this one.
Not necessarily. Like what is an open race? The fact that we've all gone for someone different just proves it. Like Matt said, we've got kind of like nothing bomb-proof, but come on, we all love to see Paisley Park win, don't we? But I'm going to play him at the place market because surely this is the biggest prize we've seen him at for a while. 3rd last year, 3rd the time before. I think he was ridden a little bit differently, wasn't he, in the Cleve Hill? I think they rode him a little bit more prominently. So I thought they might go back and revert to the older tactics when he was kind of dropped in and ridden a bit more patiently. So yeah, I'm kind of going on that angle. The fact that he's been placed the last 2 years and hopefully be placed again.
Well, look, there you go. You've got 2 markets, haven't you? Win and place. Matt is going to play 25% win, 75% place Ashdale Bob, and Adele 100% in the place market. Liam says any Irish person listening to Deasy's accent will be shocked that he likes Home by the Lee. Shocked. I don't understand that. All I know is that you're from Cork, aren't you, Deasy? Cork?
Cork. Bye. Yeah, Dilly is the river that flows through Cork, and there's a lovely song that all Cork people know about. By the banks of my own lovely Lee.
Here you go.
That's it.
I was going to ask you to sing it, Micheál. I didn't think you'd just do it on your own.
Yeah.
I can imagine you doing that late at night, sat on your sofa, bottle of Buckfast in your hand.
Oh, it was Sunday night after Man United won the cup. I was singing that and many
Right,
more
moving on. Moving on. Had to lower the tone.
Yeah.
Don, you're sitting this one out, yeah?
Yeah, like the lad said, I've been actually back St. Sam in it a little while ago, but he got beaten in the buoyant hurdle. So yeah, I can't figure it out for now. I'm going to have to revisit it. But look, it's a race I don't have a huge opinion on. Marie's Rock, I was kind of looking at if she ran in this race, but Teahupoo, there's a chance that the step up in trip will compensate for his soft ground, and Gordon Elliott isn't worried about the ground at all. So maybe it's the trip, it's the stamina test that he needs more than soft ground. So yeah, maybe Teahupoo, but I don't have a strong opinion on.
Yeah, apologies, Shane, for stereotyping. It's just blatant.
I just at a point in that no one in Cork strings box fast, but the rest of the country do. We I don't know, we just the cans of beer.
I used to nail it at uni, so that's fine. Right, we're done on Thursday then. So any other bets? Again, I'll just go in order in front of me. Just the horse and the race. Matt Toombs.
Ferrero Bamboo in the plate.
Donn McClean.
Lot of joy in the Mares Novice Hurdle.
Adele.
A glimpse of Gala in the Thames place market.
And Charlie.
Walking on air, Potemps.
All 3 in the Potemps coming up. DC.
Thanks for the help in the Potemps, and a night in Lambourne in the Kimure for Ben Pauling.
All right. Who's got a banging strike rate, as you were saying earlier on? I think that was off air. Best lays. I'm coming in here with Lucia, who the race hasn't had too many winning favourites recently. It's just the name of the horse. Why am I banging on? Matt.
Blazing Cow.
Don, any lay?
Nope. On
Fine.
Wednesday.
Adele Mulrennan.
Mighty Potter.
Charlie.
Lucia.
And Deasy.
Paisley Tearpoo if the ground isn't soft.
Okay. So you're really getting your ducks in a row. One selection on heavy and then one if the ground isn't soft.
I'm just covering all angles.
Quite right.
Putting that on was never like that.
Best bets. I'm Blazing Carl in the stayers. Matt.
Balco Coastal in the Turners. Really big price for horses that form.
Win and place. Don.
Adele at the price in the Ryanair.
Adele.
I'm going Glimpse of Gala place in the Thames, just a bit of a different one.
Charlie.
Mighty Potter.
And DC.
Thanks for the help in the Pertemps for JP McManus.
Alex Jeffrey says itchy feet for the Pertemps. Again, you can hear Ollie's comments on that horse tomorrow when that goes live. Interview with Dan Hussey. Friday we go then. We kick off with the Triumph. Matt, I know you've got no bet in this, so you can just give us your trend and then we'll kick off.
So the trend is that since it was awarded Grade 1 status in 2010, runners from the Spring Juvenile Hurdle, now run at the Dublin Racing Festival, 7 from 38, 87% profit. And it's just a much deeper race than the other Triumph trials, even before the balance of power shifted towards Ireland. Grade 1 in early February, timed perfectly to bring the best Irish juveniles together and give them meaningful experience. And the depth of the spring is evidenced by the fact that 4 of those 7 winners were beaten at Leopardstown. So it's a positive for Lossiemouth as well as Gala Marseille.
Okay, so Lossiemouth is 2.9, Blood Destiny 3.0, Gala Marceau is 7.4, Comfort Zone is 12.0. Paul says I only tuned in for Adele, to be honest. Tom says, guess someone had to. Brutal. But guys, we all know the truth, don't we, really? Adele, who do you fancy?
I'm going Lossiemouth. I think she's very unfortunate not to be coming into this unbeaten. I think Paul Townend had an absolute shocker, didn't he? But that's jump racing for you. Sometimes these things happen. I think she's got a serious engine. I absolutely love her pedigree. Like looking at that, you think she should be winning on the flat. Her dam's a half sister to Lord Glitter's a Group 1 winner. So yeah, plenty of gears, a good engine, and I think she could easily turn the form back around.
Charlie?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, what happened behind Gala Marceau was an absolute disaster. I mean, whether Paul Townend would be taking full responsibility, like Adele says, or whether who was it, Jack Foley or someone, whoever that rode the horse that absolutely minced him coming back through the field. But either way, it was a complete balls up, wasn't it? But I think she did incredibly well to get as close as she did after suffering that sort of interference. And without that, I think she'd have been a heap shorter than what she actually is now.
What do you make of Willie talking about worried she had a hard race or harder than she needed to? That's just.
Well, it seemed like him and Paul had got a bit the hump with each other, didn't they? That he was kind of pulling the back off him left, right, and centre a bit. I'm not really sure what that was all about. I suppose he's saying that once she was beat, he didn't really see the need for her to be subjected to kind of a hard race. But I'd say, from a jockey's perspective, Paul was probably absolutely raging and probably in the heat of the moment kind of lost sight of that and thought he was going to try and pull it out of the fire when maybe it was already gone. But I can see it from both sides of it. But I think she'll be absolutely fine. I think she's got a huge engine.
Donn McClean, where are you looking?
Yeah, Gala Marceau, I just think that the difference in their prices is greater than it should be. Like Lossiemouth was unlucky for sure, as I said. And she as a result of losing her place, she lost her place. Then she had to go wider than ideal around the home turn, and she finished off her race well. But if you look at it again, she's not. I know she expended a lot of energy to get there, but she's not closing on Gala Marceau going to the line. And Gala Marceau, she was very keen through the race as well, as she had been when Lossiemouth beat her at Christmas. And I just thought that unlucky losers tend to be overbet, and I think this is one such case because look, she had a massive reputation going into the race. She'd been very good in her 2 previous runs. She was a 3-1 on shot for the race, and she got beaten. But I just think Gala Marceau, all the post race talk was about Lossiemouth, and I thought Gala Marceau's run, the performance that she put up, has gone a wee bit under the radar. I think she's a bigger price than she should be. Blood Destiny, another stable companion, comes into it as well. Willie Mullins is the top 3 in the market, and he's obviously really highly regarded. But I think Gala Marceau is the value of the race.
Deasy.
I like Comfort Zone, and Kevin Blake actually said on another podcast that this was his target, and he's 13.0. I think he's a very good win place bet. He's only had one little blot in his copybook this year. That was at Fairley House behind last year out, where he was staying on at the end. Picked up a nice race at Chepstow, and he's had a run around Cheltenham as well. He beat Scriptwriter fairly handy. He's just a big price, and I'd rather be at something in a big price than this than be back in last year, to be honest.
All right, fair enough. There was a question earlier on which I quite liked. Shane said, overall, which is the hardest betting day of the festival for punters? Asked the panel. Just a quick answer on that. I think Thursday is generally brutal. Anybody else have a view?
I generally find Thursday as well, yeah.
Yeah.
And Friday. It's easier at the start of the week.
And Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I agree. Thursday can get in the bin though. Right. We move on to the Albert Bartlett. Let's start with Deasy, because you went last time. What price is this? Let's get the prices up. So Corpus Christi is 4.7, Embassy Gardens 7.2, Hidden Valley Lake 9.8, 3 Car Bragg 9.6, Favre de Chandu Dees 13.5.
Yeah, this is a bit of pocket talk now with this, but I've backed him a long way out. He ran it in Thurles twice in kind of sticky enough ground, but won fairly well backed as well both times. But he won that race at Limerick and just after St. Stephen's Day. Beat let's be clear about it, beat him by 4.5 lengths. Beat him very well, and that's been a very good Bartlett trial. Vanillier came second in it there a few years ago. Shorey Road has won a Penhill one of the few years ago. Martella Tower. Faheen won it before he won the Ballymore. So it's been one of the better trials. He's a juicy enough price. There are some good horses at the top of the market, but at 13.5, I think he's still well worth the bet. And again, he got his bit of experience at the start of the year. He's 4 runs this season, been put away now, should arrive here fresh. And I think there's a lot of upside to him. Favori the Champion.
Dan Hussey says, our producer says, Friday is 100% the hardest day. It is now. Langer Dan's not running. Donn McClean, who do you like in the Albert Bartlett?
I like Hidden Valley Lake. Still, I know he got beaten the last day, but there were like he didn't have the run of the race the last day. It was soft ground. He had to make his own running. He didn't jump great either, possibly because he was in front. And he just got run down to Monty Starr, his stable companion. Look, Monty Starr, he's a player too, but I just thought the ground maybe helped Monty Starr and didn't help Hidden Valley Lake, because he was so good the time before that at Cork when he ran out a really impressive winner from Cool Survivor, when he had Monmouth Park, and let's be clear about it, back behind him that day. He didn't travel like the most likely winner, but when Rachel Blackmore asked him to pick up, he really stayed. He saw it to 3 miles really well, and that was after winning his maiden over 2 miles and 3 at Naas. So he's a horse who does relish a test of stamina. That Surehall Mercedes-Benz race at Clonmel, in which he finished second to Monty Starr, it's been a good pointer as well. Manila Indo was beaten by Allaho in it, actually, before he went on to win the Albert Bartlett. Manley won it. He was second in the Albert Bartlett, I think. So Henry Brownhead does like that race for his top staying novice hurdlers. And I just think on better ground, with a faster pace and with the lead, Hidden Valley Lake can leave his Clonmel run behind and return to the form that he showed at Cork. And yeah, I think he's a big player.
Charlie Poste.
Yeah, I'm going to take Don on with Monty Starr, as in I completely agree with what he says about the ground was maybe in Monty Starr's favour, but I think it was only his second hurdle start, sorry, and he just looks like a real strong galloper. There's been some good horses that have won this Albert Bartlett at big prices, and I think this lad's is he Monalee's brother? He's got a very good pedigree, and like I say, he showed a lot of resolution, and this can be a real test, this race as well. And I think you want a horse that's a very, very strong stayer even at this 3-mile trip, especially this early in their life. And he could just be progressing Monty Starr. I thought he had plenty of upside and a decent price as well.
We've got 5 different horses going up here. Adele, who's the fourth of them?
Well, I'm actually going for a horse called Stay Away Faye of Paul Nichols's, who I just think it's interesting the way he describes this horse. He says there's not much between him and Hermes Allen, which is interesting because I think Hermes Allen is a very nice horse and I think he'll make a nice chaser. He said he probably is right, and this horse hasn't quite yet had a chance to kind of showcase the best of his abilities. He does look a little bit windy. I know at Doncaster he got caught on the rail and he kind of half looked like he curled up a little bit. So I think Paul was a bit disappointed with Lorcan that day, and I think he would probably prefer to be ridden with a little bit more room. But you go back to this horse's point-to-point form, and the horse he beat that day was Monty Star. So considering the difference in the betting between the two of them, he just might be a complete and utter, outsider who no one's even going to really take into interest. But I do, considering on what Paul said about him being kind of on the same level as Hermes Allen, which I thought was interesting.
Helen says we need to get Monty Star a goat, which is strong. That made me chuckle. I like that. Quite niche. I like it. Matt, what's your trend?
This is about course form and horses that have won a graded novice hurdle at Cheltenham earlier in the season, 7 from 23, big profits of those. The Bristol was abandoned, the highway to Hermes Allen is going for the Ballymore, which just leaves the Classic, where Rock My Way comfortably saw off a big hype horse in Dan Skelton's Pembroke. And Rock My Way won despite pricking his ears all the way up the run-in, looked like he had plenty in hand. Until recently, the trends for the Albert Bartlett were all about experience, especially over hurdles. First 13 winners, half a dozen of them run 6 times or more over timber. But the last 4 winners have run 2, 3, 4, 1 times. So it may be that the good horses are just for trainers who aren't running them much before the festival. But perhaps the nature of the race is changing. It's not so much of a slog now. And the result is that I'm more open-minded about the profile. It's a notoriously unpredictable race. Last 9 renewals, Monkfish is the only winner to have gone off shorter than 12.0. We've had a field of between 15 and 20 every year. So it's a win-only bet for me. I'll probably back a couple on the day. I also like Deasy's Favori de Champloo if he turns up here rather than the Martin Pipe. But Rock My Way is going to run, and at a big price, I'll give him a bit of a shout.
Right, 5 different horses for the Albert Bartlett, but that tends to be the nature of the race. And then the big one, the Boodles Gold Cup on Friday. Galopin des Champs is the horse bang at the top of the betting at 3.15. Then Brave Man's Game at 8.2. Aplutard 10.5. Noble Yates 11.0. 14 Statler Conflated 14.5. Protector at 16.0. 21.0 for Ahoy Senor. And then we get into the bigger 25.0 for Hewitt. That'd be a result. But top of the market, first of all, Adele Mulrennan. Who are you with?
A Brave Man's Game. I've always, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever given this horse enough credit because I've always kind of like seen him as being a bit of a worrier. When he ran at Wetherby on his first run back this year, I remember seeing him come out of the stable yard and into the pre-parade ring to get saddled up, and I was like, oh my god, who's that? And I was like, wow, he looks amazing. And as soon as he gets the saddle on, he's just it's like a switch. Like he starts shaking and he started dripping with sweat. And I was thinking, oh my word, like he's a bit of a worrier for me. And then once he got down into the main parade ring with all the other horses and got walking around, he was, he was much better. He was fine, and he had the hood on, and he went down to the start early, and all seemed to go well. And I thought his performance was very good. But I suppose, in the King George, he was even better. And to be honest with you, I thought Harry didn't have him in the best of positions. Every time the home press kind of kept jumping like towards him, I was thinking, oh my word, like what's he going to do? But he just seems to get better and better, and he seems to really have grown up now. So I know Paul is so bullish about him, and he said he's got him in the right place. He's really happy with him. Looks wise, physically. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd give this horse enough credit over the time, and I probably will have to, won't I? If he wins this.
Matt, I'm really surprised you've gone with this horse as well. I didn't think he was a Matt Toombs type horse. I don't know why.
I think you're right, and I absolutely agree with Adele. I started off the season very much against all the things Adele had said, and I've just changed my mind. If you look at that King George, if you'd never seen the horses before, you'd say Brave Man's Game is the stayer, and that long press and throwing on the speed horses. The further he went, the better he looked like he was. I'm not worried about the track. When he was third to Bob Ollinger, he ran to what I'd expect for a soft-trained Nichols horse over a test of speed that didn't suit. I'm not too worried about him having been peaked for the King George. It's not like Protectorat, who was peaked for his first run of the season. Paul had already got a run into him. And the enthusiasm from Paul Nichols is infectious. Just to finish off with the trend, this century horses that have recorded a Racing Post rating of 177 or higher are 8 from 21, 61% profit. And in the Gold Cup, the current season's form tends to be underbet, with form from previous seasons, especially Gold Cup form, overestimated by the market. Gold Cup, really tough race, bottoms a lot of horses. So often the values were the new kid on the block in the staying chase division, which has shown top-class form during the season. Assuming Shishkin doesn't run, Brave Man's Game's dead on that rating of 177. He's top rated. He sets a clear standard on this season's form, and I think he's a big price, and I think he will continue to shorten.
Imagine Paul Nichols if Brave Man's Games wins a Gold Cup, having not had a festival winner for a few years. Shane is absolutely trolling you, Don. I love it. He says, let's see Don break the habit of a lifetime and tip a GB horse for the Gold Cup. He said, Cheltenham Gold Cup, fun fact, Donn McClean has never tipped a GB English train winner in over 15 years of Cheltenham previews. Maybe this year he'll be a Brave Man's Game, Don.
Of a Gold Cup. Well, when the Irish win it most of the time, why would you deviate from that? Imperial Commander.
You tipped it?
Yeah. Well, I backed it. I hope I tipped it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point.
No, not Brave Man's Game for me. Although, look, I see the point. I see the case. And maybe before Kempton, before the King George, he probably didn't look like a horse who might see it out, but I think we learned more about him at Kempton. I think he stayed on really well that day, and I think even before that, Paul Nichols wasn't keen on his chance at Cheltenham. But no, it's good that the King George winner is in it. Galloping the Champ, like it's interesting because when he won the Irish Gold Cup, people kind of went, like now we know that he stays. But William Mullins said, look, he won a Grade 1 novices hurdle over 3 miles, so he was never worried about him staying. And interestingly, in the Leopardstown race, they didn't go a great pace early on, and he didn't look like he was going. He didn't travel like the most likely winner. But the more the race went on, it was only really from the final fence on. That's when he was at his most impressive. So stamina is not an issue for him, and we know that he's got pace as well. So, look, he's going to take an awful lot of beating. If Absolute Tard came back to the form that he was in last year, obviously. And he's the one everybody has to beat because he was just monstrous last year. The way that he quickened from the final fence, I mean, you just don't see that at Cheltenham in any race, not to mind in a Gold Cup. But again, I just think in terms of value and horses that are underrated by the market, I think Conflated is generally an underrated horse. Like he won the Irish Gold Cup last year, and that was his kind of coming of age because Gordon Elliott always seemed to think a lot of him even before that, but he did have a little bit of an issue mentally, I think, but he was very good last year winning the Irish Gold Cup. Then he ran a big race in the Ryanair. He probably would have been second to Allaho had he not come down at the second last fence, and that was probably over a distance that was on the sharp side for him. He won the Savills race this year at Leopardstown really impressively, and Gordon Elliott said directly after that he was going to put him away and bring him back straight to the Gold Cup. He wasn't going to the Irish Gold Cup, and you do kind of like that preparation. It isn't easy to win a Savills chase and an Irish Gold Cup and then going to win a Cheltenham Gold Cup. So he's going there fresh. He'll probably improve with a slight step up in trip. And yeah, I think he's an improving horse. Like that run the last day in the Irish Gold or in the Savills chase, that was probably up there with the best of his career. And I think he's a big enough price in. I think it's an open Gold Cup, but I think he's a big price in it.
Deasy, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Completely overlooked on his price. Like that was he won that race at Christmas in the back straight. He was gone. It was all over, and he did the same thing. I think at the Dublin Race Festival last year, just ran away from him. I think he's really good, and he's a massive price for this. I'd probably back him win place. I wouldn't back him win only because again, Galopin Des Champs could be a freak, but he's a win place price at the moment, so I'll be having a right bet off him to hit the top 3 or 4 anyway.
And Charlie, some sense.
Yeah, I think he is a freak. So I think he'll win the Gold Cup, Galopin Des Champs. I think he's, the blend of speed, stamina. I mean, jumping. Incredibly athletic horse. I just think he's the best horse in this race. I'll probably have a couple of quid on Hoy Senior each way as well, because I think he's got a big engine, and if he can hold the jumping together. I see someone just said on the screen about who's going to make the run in. I'd have thought he's probably the most likely pace angler, Hoy Senior, looking through them. So I'll have a bit each way on him, but in the place market. But yeah, I think Galopin Des Champs will win this race. I think he'll take it out impressively.
I just want to touch on something you said there, a mixture of speed and stamina. Nick Palfrey says he's just too short, isn't he? Leopard Stanley proved he was effective in a 3-mile slowly run race. Tom Leach says Statner, wide O love for the true stayer. Flashy horses don't win a Gold Cup, Matt Toombs.
Well, they do. Horses stepping up from around 3 miles have been profitable to follow. Horses actually who run at the festival over 2 miles the previous season. So if Shishkin were to turn up here, those sort of horses actually have an amazing record that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, I wouldn't be worried about it. Clearly it's different if it's a bog, like when Native River won or Bobsworth won. But you get quite a few steady run Gold Cups as we had last year. And stamina is consistently overbet because that's what everyone talks about, and speed gets underbet.
Does anybody have anything to add to the Gold Cup? Please do if you'd like to now. Right, any other bets on Friday? Just the horse and the race. Matt Toombs.
Jeremy's Flame in the Mare's Chase.
Donn McClean.
Magic Days in the Mare's Chase.
The Mare's Chase. Adele Mulrennan. Oh,
Did you hear me? Pembroke in the County Hurdle. I think Dan put me on mute.
Pembroke in the County Hurdle. Deasy, this is great. Who's your other bet, Deasy?
I don't have another bet. I just put in Langer Dan. No, lol. Just
I'd love it if he runs in this now. All right, best lays.
Yeah.
We've got a few lays, Matt.
Allegory Devassi in the Mare's Chase.
Okay, Don.
Yeah, Lassie Mad. I just think she's too short in the Triumph Hurdle.
DC.
Yeah. Take Lassie Molan.
Great. My best bet. Friday best bets. Lossiemouth in the Triumph Hurdle. I think it should go off shorter. Matt Toombs.
Brave Man's Game, both the win and the place markets in the Gold Cup.
Never thought I'd see the day. Donn McClean.
Unplayed in the Gold Cup.
Adele.
I nearly went Lossiemouth, but I've gone Brave Man's Game.
Charlie Poste.
I did go Lossiemouth.
DC.
Conflated in the Gold Cup.
Oh, DC.
Okay, that's your Friday done. Right, overall, best lays and best bets as well. We've got a best long shot section as well. We are wrapping up, but first of all, your Cheltenham best lays. You give a very brief explanation here. Cheltenham best lay for you, Matt Toombs, is who?
Time Hill. He's a 9-year-old. He's wearing headgear. He was spent far too long over hurdles, and he won the Quarto Star. So he's got exactly the wrong profile for it. And his form is quite weak because that Quarto Star fell apart.
Okay, Don, your best lay.
Yeah, an argument in the Champion Chase. I just think he's short. I think Edwardson should be clear favourite in front of him. I think it's a deep race with Edward de Gite and Gentleman de May in it as well. And unless the ground comes up very soft, yeah, I think he can drift.
Adele, your best lay for all 4 days.
It is El Fabiolo in the Arkle. I know he came close to John Bon behind neck, but I think he won't get anywhere near him this time.
Charlie.
A State Man in the Champion Hurdle. I think he's a very, very good horse, but he's not good enough. So there's one that'll beat him.
Okay, DC. I'll tell you what, there's a load of disagreement this year. I love it. D.
Placely Hermes Allen. He won't even be in the top 5, lads.
There is no way that horse. I knew you stood up then. There's no way he'll be out of the places.
There'll be 5 or 6 Irish horses just off at the distance.
Right, Adele, we're going to
Stop
set
it.
up a WhatsApp group with Deasy all about Hermes Allen, and we're going to get after him. Right, long shots. Cheltenham long shots have to be 6.0 ish or above. Mine's only 8.0, but Noble Yates for a gold cut, I think, is the perfect win and place bet, and I'd be 75% in the place market as well. Matt Toombs, your best long shot for Cheltenham.
Long shot 6.0 or bigger? Come on,
Yeah.
guys, you better than that. Balco Coastal 14.0 is a proper punting price for the Turners.
And Don.
Yeah, Gentleman the Man, Johnny Chase.
Adele, your best long shot?
Yeah, Glimpse of Gala in the Thames. I was thinking bigger, like bigger.
Yeah.
I'll go with her.
Bigger is better.
Better?
Charlie, I hope not. Charlie.
Tamaraz in the Supreme.
And Dease.
Corach Rambler in the Ultimate.
If you don't have a Matchbook account, it is well worth getting one. It's the best way of supporting our podcast because obviously the more people that utilize the Matchbook betting exchange, the better it is for us. That's across all sports as well. So if you do like what we do and you want to take advantage of an offer, then it's worth having a Matchbook account because you can get double the odds on the podcast best bets. And that stands for all the best bets per day here, as well as the overall best bets as well. You need to go to the Matchbook exchange site, open up an account and enter the bonus code podcast when signing up. Extra winnings are up to £50 in cash. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware. Cheltenham best bets then. Matt Toombs.
Impero Pass in the Ballymore.
Donn McClean.
Conflated at the price in the Gold Cup.
Adele Mulrennan.
I went for Hermes Allen, but I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe I shouldn't have done. So I need you, Tom, to kind of. Have you picked him?
I think he is an absolute beast, and I don't think there's much depth in behind him. So there we are. I'm with you. Hermes Allen. Charlie Poste.
Jerry Colomb.
And Micheál Deasy.
Play Herman. I'm away, Johnny Colomb.
All right, there's loads in there, I know, in an hour and 51 minutes. Backers of the over 1.5 hours, Matt Zoom's absolutely spot on. That's all going to be up on Insights probably in the next couple of days. I don't know exactly when, but everything we've discussed will be up there. All of the lays, all of the bets across all 4 days. And we've got next Thursday at 6 p.m. our handicap special. So now we know what's lining up and what they're carrying. That'll be in there. That's coming up at 6 p.m. on Thursday next week. So join us for that. Don't forget to check out the Ollie Murphy chat tomorrow. That'll be up with his runners for Cheltenham. And I hope you've enjoyed it all and digested it all as well. If you're listening on a recording, don't forget to comment. You can still win a £25 free bet. Happy Cheltenham. Bye-bye.